If you struggle with anterior pelvic tilt, hip impingement, labral tears, this pain pinching in the front of your hips, do this one simple exercise to adjust your pelvis and get those hips working better, alleviate some of that pain. Dr. Nicholas Mercer with You Improved PT. So you're having some pain in the front of your hips associated with some hip impingement or labral tears, FAI. You know, kind of what maybe a physician has told you, or you've gotten an x-ray or MRI, you've been determined that you have hip impingement. Even if not, if you're feeling pinching in the front of the hips, highly likely that you are dealing with some hip impingement. And one of the things that can happen with the hips when they have impingement is we could have some anterior pelvic tilt. And so anterior pelvic tilt is basically, if this is neutral for me, anterior pelvic tilt is we're stuck a little bit forward like this, right? So what that will do as you're trying to do hip movements is that will actually cause your hip to pinch into the front, right? So that ball of the femur will actually run into the acetabulum, that kind of anterior rim of the acetabulum, and we get that impingement. So instead of that joint moving back like that, we have this tipped forward, and we're running into it as we try to flex the hips. One thing that we see in a lot of people with anterior pelvic tilt is a little bit of difficulty controlling the hamstrings, whether that be an issue of hypermobility or just not able to contract those hamstrings and really control them in a lengthened and shortened position. For a lot of athletes, this is for the more flexible athletes who have been stretching so much. Not that stretching is bad, but if we don't do stretching in a way that allows us to control the hamstrings and really control the length versus just letting them go straight, we can get this issue of anterior pelvic tilting, but also from some core weakness, from just kind of weakness or let's say lack of training of abdominals and hamstrings, we can have a tendency to tilt forward, kind of like in lower cross syndrome. I will link one of the videos I've made for lower cross syndrome up in a card above right now. But what can we do when we're having, a lot of times it's in both hips or just one, this pinching in the front of the hips that could be coming from an anterior pelvic tilt. One technique I like to use on patients with this who I've determined that they're lacking some control in their lower abdominals and their hamstrings is some postural restoration 90-90 breathing. So this is kind of, you know, I found it from PRI. It's a system that deals with a lot of postural issues, but you know, it's basically a movement that will allow us to activate the lower abdominals, control our breathing, and get some of the hamstrings activated without the glutes trying to turn on and take over, and without the lower back contracting too much, trying to take over. So it will allow us to get back into a neutral pelvic position and basically clear a little bit of that impingement. So what we're going to do is, you can do this up on a wall, or if you have a couch or a chair that's either this height or about this height, just basically something that will allow your legs to go to 90 degrees when you're lying on your back. So all you're going to do is put your heels up on that surface, point the toes up. So we don't want the toes relaxed like that, we want those toes pointed up. And we're going to make sure we're at 90 degrees here, or a little less than 90 degrees at the hips and 90 degrees at the knees. And we're going to start with breathing. So toes are pointed up. We're going to let the lower back relax into the ground. And we're going to take one deep breath in through the nose. And you'll see my stomach starts to rise, my belly is rising. And then exhaling through your mouth. As you exhale, you want to purse lip. So it's going to be, so we're actually pressurizing the air as we come out. And we're going to breathe out as much air as we can as slowly as possible. This will give the lower abdominals time to engage and control and pull in. And as you're exhaling, we want to pull that belly button down as much as we can. So it's going to look like and sound like this. And at the end there, what you should feel is the abdominals pulling down and contracting, and actually you may feel a little bit of rounding in your back. That's okay. And as we do this, during this whole breathing process, we're going to be pushing the heels down into the chair or whatever surface they happen to be on. And what we want to feel is the glutes relaxed, right? So we're not tensing the glutes here. The glutes are staying relaxed. We want to feel the hamstrings kind of working. You should feel some tension in those hamstrings as they're pushing you down. And so we're going to do that breathing 5 times. So it's going to look like this. Big belly. Small belly. Keeping that tension through the heels. Another thing you want to think about is keeping your face relaxed, keeping everything else relaxed. I think that was 4. I didn't go to school for counting, so we're going to do one more. All right, and then relax. And now we're going to come up and do a test retest. So if you get that pinching when your hips are in flexion and internal rotation, we'll just test here. Make sure they're not pinching anymore, right? Or even what you can do is look in a mirror and make sure that if before you looked like this, we want to look a little more here, right? And another thing I should add here is this exercise is very good if you just need a general reset. However, what it's best for is really understanding your body. So I want you to practice mindfulness during this so that when you are going about your everyday life, those same muscles that you got to activate during this 90-90 breathing exercise, you can turn on and adjust your pelvic positioning with, just being mindful and knowing, okay, I feel like I'm tilted anteriorly a little bit. My hips are pinching a little bit. Let me try to get the lower abdominals activated, get the hamstrings activated a little bit, and just know where my pelvic position is so I can bring it back to neutral throughout my movements, and then incorporating that activation, that tension, basically the feeling that you got from this exercise into your other movements that are causing the pinching in your hips, if it's caused by anterior pelvic tilt. So again, one of the best things you can learn from any exercise, any stretch, is mindfulness of your body. That's going to be incredibly, incredibly important to carrying over these exercises into your real life, everyday sports, exercise, workouts, whatever you love to do, even if it's just, playing with your kids, your grandkids, or even just sitting down and working, because I know that pinching can happen a lot in the front of the hips when we're sitting down for a long time. So do that, test, retest, kind of see where your pelvic positioning is, and this should help you find that neutral, help you get some muscles activated so that the hip isn't causing that, resetting the pelvis to here so that we can get a little more flexion and internal rotation through the hip without that discomfort and pain in the front of the hip. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post videos on a lot of different types of pain, but especially impingement and just getting you back to the life that you want to live, a very active life. If you want more information, go to youimprovept.com. We have a lot of free information on how to alleviate various different types of pain. And please get in contact with us through email. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know how we can help you better, because all we want to do is help you improve your movement and improve your life.